We're now going to go on to a sort of a different section of this webinar. We're going to have Anne and Alice. They're from China, and they're going to be talking about the real situation of Chinese women, the development of political lesbianism among Chinese feminists, and lesbian feminists' understanding of political lesbianism.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anne. I'm from China. I'm talking about political lesbianism in China. Firstly, I want to introduce current situation for Chinese women. Unbalanced sex ratio. Chinese have a boy-baby preference tradition for a long time. China counted the population of men and women. There are 30 million women less than men. An official report shows that when people have the fifth baby or above, the sex ratio is very extreme. In Beijing, the sex ratio for fifth baby is 50,000, which means 50,000 boys born, while only 100 girls born. The unbalanced sex ratio leads to increasing criminal rates. The reason why they think women are inferior to men is they assume women will marry to men and have a baby that follows their father's last name. The last name has very important meaning in China. It represents family and inheritance. 3-children policy. In August, China has released 3-children policy to encourage fertility. However, it is a bad news for women. Some companies start to stop recruiting women because they think women will put more time on giving birth and raising babies, which make women less competitive than men. Besides, 3-children policy will let more women lose their inheritance right. When a girl is the only child in her family, she could financial support from her family. But when she has a brother, her inheritance right is probably undermined or deprived. Some girls even lose their access to higher education because they need to work and contribute her money to her brother. Heterosexual marriage culture. Heterosexual marriage culture is deep-rooted in China. There was a word to describe women over 30 years old and haven't get married to men, leftover women. Women are expected to get married with men by their parents and society. Recent years, China increased the difficulty for women who want to divorce. In 2021, the divorce coming period policy has released. It means if women want to divorce, she had to wait for 30 days. And once her husband refused to divorce, her application for divorce would be rejected. A woman in Hubei died from domestic violence in divorce coming period. China thinks heterosexual marriage is the basis of family, and that every family is a part of society. So maintaining society of stability, they should put focus on the stability of family, which means heterosexual marriage. The ghost marriage, I will talk it later. Origin of Chinese political lesbianism. I'd like to talk about how the discussions over political lesbianism broke out in China. For fear of constant harassment and abuse from men, Chinese radical feminists find it very dangerous to hold face-to-face events. So we can only conduct our discussions online. Before hearing of political lesbianism, we had supported South Korea's 6B40 radical feminist movement that encourages women to reject sexual intercourse with men, as well as have a baby, dating, sex, and marriage. The ideology is associated with separatist feminism and political lesbianism, which advocates women organizing for their rights by refusing any participation with men and patriarchal institutions. Furthermore, most of us have been passionate Yuri lovers. Yuri is focusing on intimate relationships between female characters. Our enthusiasm for Yuri sparked off our first debate over lesbianism. Most Chinese feminists claim that lesbianism is not relevant to feminism. They object to any kind of romantic or sexual relationship, including lesbian relationship. They think it is a mirror image of heterosexual relationship. We lesbian feminists have always been fighting against those prejudices and argue that feminists should promote lesbian relationships and protect lesbian rights. Such kind of debates reached multiple rounds, and some of us got kicked out of radical feminism groups because of our views. Lesbian feminists had no choice but to build our own online community. Our understanding on political lesbianism. Within our community, we came to know political lesbianism, which is similar to our beliefs. We translated several Sheila Jeffries' essays on political lesbianism. In the famous booklet, Love Your Enemy, Sheila and other lesbians define a political lesbian as a woman-identified woman who does not fuck with men. Many people misunderstand the definition, claiming that political lesbians are heterosexual or bisexual women who don't sleep with men. But we think we should put focus on the phrase, women-identified women. The women-identified woman defined herself without reference to male-dominated societal structures. She gained her sense of identity not from the men she related to, but from her internal sense of self and from ideals of nurturing, community, and cooperation that she defined as female. The love, sexuality, and energy of the women-identified women were focused on herself and other women, rather than on men or male institutions. In a society that despised and belittled women, many lesbian feminists feel that loving oneself and other women was the most radical act. We think political lesbianism is only attracted to women. Sex attraction for women exists. But political lesbianism is more than sex attraction. The most important thing is to concentrate our love, sexuality, energy, politics, support on women, and recognize lesbianism is a resistance to patriarchy. We love the motto, feminism is a theory, lesbianism is a practice. Heterosexuality is social constructed. We think heterosexuality is socially constructed and only exists in human beings. That so-called heterosexual behaviors in other species are sexual reproduction. Many female animals are raped by males, and that has nothing to do with attraction. Chinese lesbian feminists consider penetrative sex as a type of rape and believe that in order to control and exploit women, men invented heterosexuality, which makes a woman with a misconception that being attracted by men is her biology destiny. If men are our oppressors, why is it natural to fall in love with a member of the class who have been dominating us for thousands of years? Chinese women cannot escape from heterosexuality even after death. In traditional Chinese culture, it is shameful to be the parents of an unwed daughter, and unmarried daughters are often shunned from society. There was an interview in China. A journalist asked a group of little girls what they will do after 20 years. Some say they will become a housewife. Some say they will marry a man and have a baby. Do these young girls really know what sexual attraction is? In some regions in China, after an unmarried woman dies, her family will sell her corpse to another family with a deceased son and perform a ghost marriage. From born to die, women are living under the shadow of heterosexuality. As we mentioned, the sex ratio is very unbalanced in China because of some preference. They assume their daughters are heterosexual women. Thus, they think we will serve for men and lose our last name. So they think only boys are family members. They want a boy baby, not a daughter. Our sisters lost their life because compulsory heterosexuality, because we are assumed to be heterosexual and have no choice but to serve for men. If some women who want to live from heterosexual marriage, the divorce coming policy prevents them. If some women who want to keep celibate, she would be ashamed by society. Even some women die, they couldn't escape from compulsory heterosexuality after death. Every woman can be a lesbian. We love the song from Alice Dobkin, every woman can be a lesbian. We think this is the core of political lesbianism. In our opinion, we think every woman will be a lesbian if there is no compulsory heterosexuality. We do think women can be attracted to women and only attracted to women from emotionally and sexually. If patriarchy can assume every woman is heterosexual, lesbianism is a deviation from normal. Why we cannot assume every woman can be a lesbian? Women love women. Women are only attracted to women. It's a very natural thing. We think in an ideal society, words of women and lesbian can be interchangeable. Heterosexuality is social constructed and therefore patriarchy. If patriarchy can construct it, we can also deconstruct it. We believe a woman can deconstruct her heterosexuality and love women. Some people may think political lesbianism is similar to conversion therapy. We don't think so. The conversion therapy is rooted in compulsory heterosexuality and misogyny. They don't want to see lesbians because we don't care about men and serve for men. They are afraid of women become lesbians. They are afraid that women realize that heterosexuality is not innate and abandon it forever and love women. Patriarchy supports conversion therapy, but they will never support political lesbianism. They may accept lesbians to some extent, but they also assume only a little amount of lesbians exist.
I guess won't need some.
Most of women are heterosexual, and this is innate and can never be changed. For us Chinese lesbian feminists, some of us realize we are lesbians before we get in touch with feminism and political lesbianism. Some find they are lesbians after they get in touch with feminism and political lesbianism. All of us find that when we know feminism, we love women more than ever before. Some think they were heterosexual women before, although at that time, they didn't feel any attraction to men. After getting in touch with feminism, their love and attraction to women are awakened up. They love and only love women. When a woman believes that she is heterosexual, at most time, she doesn't need any condition to check it. Lesbians are survivors from compulsory heterosexuality. Political lesbianism analyzes heterosexuality and points out compulsory heterosexuality. This is very helpful to resist patriarchy. Every woman can be a lesbian. This is a strong resistance to patriarchy. Furthermore, we think that sexual arousal mechanism is different from women and men. Some women may not feel that she are attracted to one woman at first glance. She may need some time to communicate with each other, become friends first, and then become couples. This is very different from men. Heterosexual men's sexuality towards women includes much violence, and we think penetration is rape. But women's sexuality towards women is very different. Lesbians are different from heterosexual men and also different from gay men. Different culture between West and China. China before Western nation was another society that segregated men from women. Historical Chinese culture has not recognized a concept of sexual orientation or a framework to divide people based on their same-sex or opposite-sex attractions. Although there was a significant culture surrounding homosexual men, there was none for women. Outside women's duties to bear sons to their husbands, women are perceived as having no sexuality at all. That's one of the reasons why we believe heterosexuality concept is constructed and created to maintain the oppression on women. In fact, in the history of China, sometimes they think men loving men is noble. Some Chinese men emperors had men lovers, but at the same time, they think women are inferior to men and only have the duties to give a boy baby to men. They never promote women loving women. The concept of heterosexuality is from the West and assume that most women are heterosexual, which makes women believe that they serve for men because they are attracted to men. Without the concept of heterosexuality, the situation of women under oppression is very obvious. No love, no attractiveness. Only oppression. Practice of Chinese political lesbianism. First, build our own community. We have built our online community 1 year ago. Although one discussion group was banned in April, with other 10 groups which also promoting 6B40, that social media banned us for they think the thought is too radical, but we soon rebuild one. Build and promote lesbian culture. We don't only promote urine, including lesbian movies, lesbian novels, lesbian comics, but also some of us start to write lesbian stories. Some of us draw lesbian pictures. We want to build our own lesbian culture. From online to offline, some of us, they find girlfriends in our community and they live together. Some of us, they invite their girlfriend to attend to our discussion group. We cherish our sisterhood and we want to deepen our relationship with each other and help each other in real life. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Alice to talk about our political lesbianism discussions in China.
Thank you, Anne. Anne has just given a wonderful description of political lesbianism in China. It's so proud that we can speak at a panel with so many sisters from all over the world and the admirable forerunner of political lesbianism, Sheila Jeffries, present. My name is Alice, and I really want to talk about how Chinese lesbian feminists integrate political lesbianism into our discussions. It's worth noting that since the beginning, Chinese lesbian feminists have been very clear about the exclusion of men from our conversations, and a gay man is no exception. Unlike the West, China doesn't have a history of gay rights movement, and in the case of gay rights advocacy in China, it's always only gay men who take the spotlight. So as a result, it's easier for Chinese lesbians to dissociate themselves from gay men after they learn about feminist separatism. On top of that, gay men in China are notorious for entering into marriage with unwitting women for the purpose of having offspring, specifically sons. Having suffered from not only being cheated on and emotionally abused, but also having their dignity jeopardized, tongxi, the wives of gay men, are unfortunately publicly neglected. Much worse, they're unwittingly at high risk for AIDS infection, which stigmatizes them and results in health inequity. Aware of those women's misery, coupled with the fact that Chinese gay men are seeking out overseas surrogates if their budget permits, Chinese radical feminists assert explicitly that gay men and feminists are not in the same boat. This is a so overwhelming consensus that never have I encountered a Chinese lesbian feminist who thinks gay men are the ally. Yes, we don't believe there is such a thing as male allies. We hold our feminist discussions on the basis that women and men are two opposing camps, and that radical feminism is a war between the two sexes. Chinese radical feminists have no qualms about demonstrating their antipathy against men. This leads to my next point, that is, Chinese lesbian feminists not only encourage straight women to abandon their heterosexuality, but they're forthright in speaking out against women who hold on to their heterosexuality. From the perspective of Chinese political lesbians, a woman maintaining her heterosexuality means she still feels attachments to men. Based on the consensus that feminists should erase men from their lives, which is the 6B40 principles and Anne has discussed, Chinese lesbian feminists have made a step further by asking why radical feminists cannot eradicate men from their minds. Essentially, before discovering political lesbianism, Chinese lesbian feminists have already developed similar ideas of abandoning heterosexuality. It's fascinating to see that the arguments of some Chinese lesbian feminists coincide with the ideas of political lesbianism from the West. In my experience, I feel comparing with Western feminists, Chinese lesbian feminists take a more welcome attitude towards a woman who's considering the possibility of herself becoming a lesbian. This open-mindedness is in part because the notion that sexuality is innate is not perceived as politically correct or indubitable as it is in the West. In fact, most misrepresentations and disapprobation of political lesbianism on the Chinese internet come from heterosexual women. The most prevalent counterargument we confront against political lesbianism is a lesbian couple building up a committed relationship will alienate other sisters, and that a romantic relationship is intrinsically inferior to a friendship. Not to mention that lesbian feminists put friendships on the same scale as romantic and sexual relationships. Our critics are viewing lesbianism through the lens of heterosexuality. That is, if radical feminism regards having a romantic or sexual relationship with a man as bad, then establishing a romantic or sexual relationship with women is equally detrimental. Our retort is simple. Women and men are different. So comparing a lesbian relationship to a heterosexual relationship lacks a basic understanding of radical feminism. On the contrary, lesbians are the foremost exponents of political lesbianism in China, because political lesbians are the only group that accentuates lesbian rights in our feminist discussions, while plenty of feminists see the rights of lesbians have nothing to do with the rights of women. Please note that not all Chinese lesbian feminists believe that sexuality is a choice. Some of us think women are born to love women. Namely, all women are innate lesbians. Their rationale is, if there were no men in the world, no woman would be heterosexual, and every woman would only be attracted to women. Other lesbian feminists accept that the sexuality is a choice. Regardless of our different explanations of heterosexuality, most Chinese lesbian feminists agree that any woman can be a lesbian, and that political lesbianism can foster a community that offers support and solidarity to women. Here, I'd like to elucidate our understanding of political lesbianism, because I've seen many women misconstrue political lesbianism as a heterosexual woman who hates men so much that she takes on lesbian as a self-label. This is contradictory to our viewpoint. A political lesbian is a real lesbian, meaning that she's exclusively attracted to other women. We know political lesbianism is a sensitive topic in feminist discussions, and the misconception around political lesbians certainly contributes to the denigration. Regarding the argument that lesbianism as a choice is lesbophobic, we first want to highlight that no conclusive scientific research has proven that biology determines sexual orientation. The entire search for biological basis for homosexuality is predicated upon the assumption that homosexuality is not the natural or default state of a developing human, and that something must have gone wrong inside lesbian bodies and brains. Furthermore, if people are concerned that homophobes will want to urge lesbians to be straight if there is no biological basis for sexuality, is it not equally true that finding the so-called lesbian genes might also inspire same homophobes to find a genetic cure for lesbians? What matters is people's agenda when talking about their ideologies. Political lesbianism never wants to cure homosexuality. Lesbophobia is entrenched in misogyny and heteronormativity, both of which Chinese lesbian feminists are aiming to challenge. In our opinion, political lesbianism is the exact opposite of lesbophobia, as it champions lesbianism. Rather than blaming political lesbianism for aggravating lesbophobia, we'd better reflect on the concealed and omnipresent fear of women no longer choosing men. Right now, we are happy to see that many Chinese feminists are reconsidering their sexuality after coming to know political lesbianism, and that many lesbian feminists are advocating political lesbianism to other lesbian sisters.